Another example of the debate between local control and statewide standards is before the legislature. A bill that would ban city and county governments from enacting their own standards or prohibitions for auxiliary containers like plastic bags, cups, and containers has passed a key Senate committee. Senator Carolyn Laine joins me now to talk about her position on this preemption issue. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The patchwork argument is one of the arguments that was raised in the committee and cited as a reason that this law needs to exist. Is it too onerous for businesses that operate in a variety of communities around the state to have to comply with a patchwork of rules?
Well, that's certainly the complaint that's coming forth, is that we need uniform regulation. And of course, the answer to that is a statewide ban on some of these things, which we'll probably get more into as we go on here. But any particular, like a Holiday's gas station or any particular entity that has many places around the state, they will probably make a common sense solution, a common sense economical solution. If they have to not have it here in a large part like Minneapolis, they'll probably start to decrease it in other places too, because that would make common sense. I remember somebody saying that they would pay 10% more for a lid that they would have on a cup. And I'm thinking 10% of what? A fraction of a cent? And yes, I'm not going to put down 10%, but the point is that we always make these decisions as to what will work best for people, what will work best for the whole, and we pay for what we need, and costs decrease other places. So this is something to take into consideration.
Well, Senator Hall did say during the committee that he felt like some of these local control ordinances are an abuse of power. And in a sense, if Minneapolis, say, passes this thing for coffee lids, and as you say, Holiday gas stations takes that issue statewide, in a sense, Minneapolis is forcing change. So you have one group of people that are forcing change on the entire state or on an entire business. Where is the line between local control and uniform standards?
Well, this is the question I really appreciate, because someplace the leadership has to be taken. And you just think of tobacco. We became more and more aware of the health hazard to all of us, not just of smoking, but of secondhand smoke. To our children, to our babies, it was a health hazard. But who was taking the lead on it when the pressure from the industry was, oh, don't make me do anything? And Minneapolis took the lead and said, we're going to ban it, and they could only do it in public places. We're going to ban smoking in public places. And then restaurants said, well, you know, we're going to put smoking over here and non-smoking over here. And we began to say, you know, this is cool. I don't like to have to smell this smoke. And little by little it grew until it was a no-brainer. I mean, it was difficult to pass it statewide, but it was eventually the leadership position to actually take it statewide. And now it's nationwide. I mean, it's common sense at this point. But somebody had to take the leadership.
So that slow change, in your view, begins with the local government, and then as the effects are seen, it sometimes grows statewide and even nationwide.
Right, right.
Packaging for food and beverages is really a unique choice for retailers, for businesses, and they make those choices based on their cost or the appearance or the functionality. How much right does a business have to make those choices for themselves?
I should hope that necessity is the mother of invention, and that as we push forth and realize the hazards of plastics, basically is what we're talking about, that we will come up with solutions to this that will be as attractive or as helpful to all these places. So I'm assuming that we will do it again.
Several testifiers before the committee represented small and minority-owned businesses, and they used comments like great burden or unfairly targeting. One business owner said he'd rather provide better wages for his employees than have to use, you know, his margin to pay for different containers, presumably more expensive containers. So what is your response to these entrepreneurs who say that it will be a burden for them to try to comply?
Oh, we have to solve these problems. We have to do it in a way that takes these things into consideration. At the same time, the job of government is to steward the good of the whole. And so we have to look at the larger perspectives. We can't say this entrepreneur gets to do something that is going to cause harm to this baby. You know, we have to look at the good of the whole, and sometimes we just have to adjust. So we recognize these things. We try to take them into consideration as we go forth. We try to accommodate it in some way, make the transition easier, whatever. But we need to start looking at the hazards of plastics in our environment and our own bodies.
Some will say that it's best for the market to decide. Let people's choices be the driver of these instead of local governments. If there is an appetite for this kind of change, wouldn't it best come from the consumer? I mean, people are making more conscious choices, reusing their own bags and other things to help the environment. Could this change just happen more organically?
I think this change is happening more organically, and this is where I rise to when Senator Hall said, well, local control actually means local, personal control, and I go, I am trying. I have now recycled paper and the plastics that are recyclable. There's the trash, and the trash I still can't get down. I know that in my city, Columbia Heights is going to has some option now for recycling your food wastes. I'm looking forward to that. I've got to get into it. It's always this change and this habit change, but I want to do that. And then I throw this plastic bag away, and I hesitate, and it feels bad because I know from being here at the legislature the hazards of that plastic in the larger environment and in our own health, and I don't know what to do with it. But there it comes, and I try not to take it at the store, but it's on packaging, it's here and there. I need help. I can't do this by myself. So local control depends on the overall control. We need to, as I said, take leadership in this as we come to the larger awareness. And it takes time, it takes more people. It always has to be a majority that comes to this understanding. And we're moving in that way. To do a universal ban on everything, everywhere, is just simply pushing against the tremendous trends in local, national, and international passion for doing something about this.
One final question for you. If this measure does become law, so that local governments are not allowed to make these kinds of local decisions, what would you like to see done statewide to tackle this issue?
I think in the committee we actually talked about bipartisanly about a statewide ban on some of these things. I could see the appetite getting increased for a statewide ban.
All right, Senator Laine, thank you so much for your perspective.
Thank you.